So in this video, I'm going to attempt to like kind of start a new series about like 6x6 tips that I personally have. Like I may have learned them from other people, but I think a rare few I may have come up by myself. But I find that there isn't really a series that is very Yau-specific, so I want to do one that is more specific to Yau. And at the same time, like okay, for episode 0, which is this one, I'm going to do one for hardware because 6x6 is basically the most difficult cube to set up out of like 3 to 7, and it's just I do have some experience setting up like quite a lot of 6x6s, not just my Aoshi, but this video will be specific to my Aoshi. But I think many things about the Aoshi can be applied elsewhere. It's just that this is the cube that I use. So magnets. This one is probably something that is a problem that none of you would probably face. But I got this problem because I bought the non-magnetic Aoshi and magnetized it with my own magnets, which are weaker than the proper magnetic version. And I actually like it better than the official version at first. But after a while I felt that it's a bit too flimsy, and then I went to stack magnets on top of my Aoshi to make it more stable. So I basically went back to where the official magnetic version is. So yeah, just get the official magnetic version from the start. So okay, the rest of this setup is just loop and tension. And okay, so for lubing, my Aoshi has gone through like 2 different setups throughout this entire career as my main. So like these are the silicone setup and the Angstrom setup. And I'll explain the silicone setup first because it's easier, and I'm going to use a Yixing rate to explain this because like firstly it's the same logic, and secondly I already properly set up my Aoshi, so I don't want to mess with the setup. Whereas for this cube I don't really care. So okay, when you set a cube up, or an even cube up, like there are 2 things to pay attention to. The first is ring loop and the other is piece loop. So I'm going to talk about ring loop first. So okay, first my loop choice, regardless of whether it's ring loop or piece loop, I just go for one single high viscosity Kelvin's loop. And the reason why I use Kelvin's loop is because that's what my store sells. But the general rule is like just go to your cube store and look for the highest viscosity loop that is being offered. So in the context of Cubewerkz, that's Kelvin's high viscosity. And then okay, so when you do ring looping, basically rings are the squares that revolve around a fixed center. So the square is movable while the center is fixed. And how you loop the rings is when the cube is disassembled, the square can be separated from the circle, and you can actually see a groove along that square that is like around, like there's a circular hole in the middle of the square, and on top of the hole there's a groove. So you can just loop along that groove and stick the square back to the circle and twist it one round, and it will actually stick to the circle. Then okay, that's all to ring looping. For piece looping, what I do is I will imagine the mechanism to be, instead of imagining a mechanism to be made of pieces, I imagine that the mechanism is made of lines, and then the lines will cut the cube into pieces. So to get a clearer view of what I'm talking about, here you can see 3 layers, but at the same time you can think of it as 3 lines. So the innermost layer is actually this line here that goes around the internal piece, but of course I don't need to plug out the internal piece to show this. And then like, so what you do is for the second layer is this other line here, like there's one other line here along this line, and the outer layer is this outside line. So the Aoshi mechanism is very similar to the Yixing rate, except that like there's no extra anchor outside here. But what happens is that when you loop the cube, you basically take your string. So imagine this pencil is the string, and then you draw a straight line down like that. And then because the base is bigger, you just you put over the base, and then you repeat this on the other parts of the cube. So you like draw a line down on the second layer like that, and then a little bit more on the base, and likewise to the innermost layer. So that's all to my silicone setup. For the Angstrom setup, okay, this one is a little bit more debatable because it's a bit more complicated because there are 3 major loops involved. So just in case anybody mixes these 2 up, Dignitas will be the white liquid, while Gravitas is the clear semi-solid. And then okay, the last one is DNM, which is, in my opinion, this one is actually not that useful. I'm just putting it here to complete the set, and like some people have said that Dignitas and DNM work quite well together. But for me, I've tried it. it does make a bit of difference, but I think it's not really a lot of difference. So okay, the main deal here is that my Angstrom setup is similar to the silicone setup, except that you have to pay attention to one extra thing, because silicone is just one loop, whereas Angstrom is kind of two loops. So you have to choose like which parts do you put gravitas and which parts do you put signitas. So what I will do here is, for the ring loop, it's just gravitas. For the piece loop, and this is where I get really specific to my outshoot, because what happens is, by default in the outshoot, the third layer is the slowest one out of the three, while the outer two are quite fast. So what I will do to the outer layer of my outshoot is, I still want it to be fast, so I just loop it with pure dignitas. With the inner layer, since it's the slowest, I will loop this side here with pure dignitas as well, so I can speed it up. But the second layer, I want to slow it down so that it will be more similar to the third, because I want the middle four to stick together and be really solid, and they don't flex while I turn the outer, which is basically where my outshoot is now. So because of that, I want to slow down my second layer, and what I will do is, I'll put the gravitas on the base, and a little bit here, while the trench in the middle here is dignitas. So that's all to my Angstrom setup. Now, after looping, the next part is actually breaking the cube in. And I would say that regardless of whether you put silicone or Angstrom, the cube will be like quite bad immediately after you lube it. And then my solution, just break the cube in, and it will turn out quite good afterwards. So okay, how is the cube bad is different between Angstrom and silicone. So with silicone, it basically slows the cube down and makes it very gummy. Then the more you play with it, the faster it becomes, and that's how I got it really fast in the past. But now that I've switched my outshoot to Angstrom loops, my experience with Angstrom loops is a bit different, because firstly, the break-in time for the Angstrom loops is longer than silicone, and secondly, its reason for being bad is also before you break it in is also a bit different, because Angstrom loops are less gummy than the silicones. So what happens is, I feel that the cube was less smooth. I think it doesn't slow down as much, but I find that the cube is less smooth, and because it also lacks the stickiness of the silicone, the middle four layers also don't stick together as well. So I also found that it was less stable, and it took quite a lot of adjusting tensions and breaking it in longer than the silicone to make my outshoot better. So right now I feel that in terms of what is the final status of breaking in, the Angstrom setup is a bit better than the silicone setup within the context of the outshoot GTS, but I cannot say the same about other cubes because I've not tried it. That one, you can just try the experiment for yourself. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to talk about is tensioning. So with regards to tension, I think that what I will do is, rarely after I finish tensioning the cube, I will actually be satisfied. Most of the time I think that something will be wrong, but I will just do sessions with the cube. So every time I play with the cube, I will actually have a screwdriver on hand. This is my screwdriver, and when something feels off, then I will go and fix it. So basically, if the cube feels a bit too flimsy or too tight, then it means there's some loosening or tensioning to do. And how I do this is, I actually compare the tensions. So the first step is just to pull your cube like that, and see which face is being pulled out further. Then you flip it around, and you pull it out again. And the reason why I like to flip it around is because I want to eliminate the possibility of one hand pulling harder than the other. So if I'm accidentally applying more force on my left hand, I will get to see both faces equally. And let's say if the same face gets pulled out more for both times, then it means that either I tighten that particular face or I loosen the opposite face, depending on whether I feel that my cube is too tight or too loose in the first place. So once I get every opposite pair of faces to be equally tensioned, then I will just compare between two axes, and then compare the third axis afterwards. So for example, let's say I made yellow and white very equal to each other. Then I'll compare how far I can pull apart yellow and white compared to how far I can pull apart green and blue. And then, let's say if green and blue is pulling further than yellow and white, then I'll just tighten both of them at the same time, or loosen the yellow and white at the same time, depending. Once again, that depends on whether the cube is too tight or too loose in the first place.